Hey, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Friday night, early Friday evening here in California, 5:57 p.m. California time, February 14th, 2025. Happy Valentine's Day out there. Latest earthquake here shows a 5.9 earthquake here, striking up into the Russia area, it looks like. Latest quake on the globe. Let's go ahead and take a look here. USGS showing nothing yet. They're having some issues with their maps, and they're aware of it, according to the USGS up here. Their zooming in models are really not working like they're supposed to. In fact, they're missing some of their normal maps out here. It only shows the ocean and the USGS topography map. And no 5.9 earthquake yet, so we'll wait for that to roll in. But it does look like it's up there around the Russia area. Earlier today as well, a 6.0 earthquake into the Ethiopia rift boundary. Now, that's the biggest earthquake in this sequence of events so far. If we go back the last 30 days, that's only a fraction of the earthquakes that are happening out here. Where's the list at? Oh, it's over here to the right. Well, where did it go? I don't know. Their maps are all over the place here. It looks a little bit different than I'm used to here, but we'll work with it. There we go. There's the list over here on the side. I was looking for that. So there's a 6.0, the largest in this sequence of events. This is only a fraction of the earthquakes that have struck out here in the Ethiopia rift boundary. Believe it's magma. Ultimately, it's a spreading continental rift zone here. Eventually, this whole area will be a new sea and a separate Ethiopia plate pulled further off from the Africa region. But this is a decent earthquake. Now, we'll have to go back here and see if double check, make sure this is the largest. We're going to go 4.0 and above, and we'll just make it easy and go back the past year. But most of the earthquake activity has been around this area in the last couple months. So let's go check out. That's what I'm looking for. This is the normal map. How come this works, but their main page doesn't work? Isn't that odd? Okay, so let's go back over here. See what I'm doing. Ethiopia rift boundary right here is going to be roughly within this area is where that earthquake swarm is taking place. So let's check it out real quick. And I'll show you guys the number of earthquakes. Now, this shows almost 300 earthquakes. And the 6-pointer being the strongest so far in this sequence of events. Prior to that, 5.7 back in January. And January, we were really ramping up here with earthquake activity. Let's see how far this goes back. January. Hundreds and hundreds of earthquakes, even in December. And only a handful back in October and September of last year. So it looks like back in end of December is when things really started to ramp up out here. Again, almost 300 earthquakes in this rift valley. It's pulling apart. This area of the plate is. It's a divergent boundary activity event. No volcanic activity yet, but this 6-pointer is one of the larger. It is the largest earthquake. And after a little quiet period here, we may see things start to stir back up, it looks like. Because if you look, our last decent events there was back on the 4th of this month, so just about 10 days ago. And then all of a sudden, a 6-pointer kicks up in the middle of it. Interesting. Got to watch that pretty closely. There's a lot going on underneath this area. And it seems as though it's happening across broadly in this area. Following all this swarming in Ethiopia, that's when we've seen things starting to kick up in the Santorini area. Over here, let's go ahead and check out that area. Oh, man, it looks... What's going on here with the USGS map? Let's bring up just the ocean view so we can see what's going on. A little bit better quality. Excuse me. Yeah, so 5.9 up in Russia. We'll get back to that here in just a minute. I do want to cover the Greece activity. They're only showing one earthquake here outside the Santorini region up to the northeast of the swarming area. Now, let's go Let's open up the station viewer real quick. Show you guys what's going on as we zoom in here. 1,249 earthquakes in the region. That's only within the last week. That signal right here that's showing up on the Raspberry Shake data, which is a 4D, this station right here, R25B3, it sits down here, 4D right here. But it is picking up the 5.9. That's a distant signature showing up on that seismograph station. That 5.9, well up north into Russia, a long ways away, but that's a decent sized earthquake. The last earthquake in this specific area appears to be a 2.5 earthquake. A number of 2s and 3s in there as well, but a little concerning with what I'm seeing here on the seismograph recorded area. Let me refresh this here, make sure we got the most recent data. Now this is the last 24 hours of recorded data around the Santorini area. Now, of course, earthquakes are going to look legitly like these red and blue ones, right? Very strong. Those are some of the 4s. But look in the background here. Look at this continuous sequence, that signature on a couple of the blue and the red lines here. You can see it on this station as well. That is magma movement. That's what fluid movement looks like. We see it at volcanoes. We see it at Kilauea Volcano in Hawaii. We see it at Iceland. Something is on the move here, and that happened earlier this afternoon here, about 5 or 6 hours or so ago. But that's what fluid movement looks like at a volcano, and it looks like it was about an hour or so, maybe an hour and a half, and then it came to a halt, and now we're just still seeing some earthquake activity. But these 4s came in following the fluid movement, so that's a little concerning here. Let's see where this migration is taking us. Let me take a look here at the last I want to see where that 4-pointer is right here, north and out of the area away from the Santorini region. I have noticed here a migration to the north and east lately, away from the main swarming region, which is right here. And there has been within the last week some down south here as well, but I'm starting to wonder here if that fluid movement is not maybe finding a path further off in this general direction, because again, the 4-pointer, 4.1 right there in the blue dot, 3-pointer following that, that's north, 2.7 north. Look at all these quakes that popped up. Well, it's a mixed bag of here and there, right? But some of these bigger ones up north. Either way, that signal right there is a little concerning because it does look like fluid movement. I've studied these graphs for quite a while. It's this thicker line of almost continuous activity, something we haven't seen so far yet in this earthquake swarm. And then following that fluid movement, larger earthquake activity with somewhat of a northward migration fashion there going on. See where these last couple of earthquakes struck here. 2.5 down south, 1.6. It's just all over the place still. So gotta watch it, right? It's some interesting movement. I'll keep my eyes open on that because, I mean, if you ask any seismologist, that looks like fluid movement, that continuous activity. And that's not wind, because it's showing up on many other seismograph stations there in the area of the Santorini, Greece area. So definitely keep an eye on it. USGS only reporting one earthquake here today for a 4.3, but we all know there's way more than that. It is showing up there on the earthquake 3D globe as well. But something is stirring up underneath this area that's creating all these rift boundaries underneath the region here. I believe this is, if I remember right, there's supposed to be some type of lost continent or an old piece of a plate underneath the Africa region. That could have something to do with the elevated activity we're seeing here across many rift boundaries. I don't know what I did with that article. I have to pull it back up, another update, but look into that. There's definitely some type of older portion of an older plate that is buried underneath this area, and I can't think that would be any good. So it's got to be stirring something up underneath this region. 5.8 downgraded it from a 5.9. Again, up in Russia. That's a fairly decent sized earthquake. Let's see what the USGS is showing up here. 5.7, of course, a little bit less. This map, it doesn't want to zoom in all the way. So they're aware of it. At least with the ocean map here, I can zoom in to the features for the most part and see a lot of the activity. So definitely got the movement going on here across the Ethiopia rift boundary. Let me double check that seismograph station here. See what that looks like, because they're only showing one earthquake there, that 6-pointer earlier today. We'll go over here to the Ethiopia area and check out this seismograph station and see what it looks like. Well, there's a 6-pointer. Whoo, that's a big one. But that was it. Nothing prior, nothing afterwards. A little interesting there. So no continuation of the swarm or anything, just one big earthquake, and that was it. Following almost 300 earthquakes in the last couple months here since the end of December. So a lot going on underneath this area. What it's leading to, I can't say with certainty, but there's definitely some interesting movement out here across this area of the world recently. Some activity there filling in the Philippines region here as well, 5.3. That area has been getting swarmed. Look at all this movement here. Lots of 2s and 3s and a couple 5s in there as well. Looks like maybe something might be brewing in here in terms of larger potential. Keep an eye on that. Down across the rest of the plate boundary here. Minimal movement across Vanuatu region, 4.9 and a 5-pointer. New Zealand area, a little bit of earthquake activity, a 4 and a 3-pointer. For the most part, looks fairly shallow there. Let me run over to the GeoNet servers here. Excuse me, you're going to have to bear with me. I am sick again. I don't know how many times I've been sick this winter, but I want to go bury my head in the sand and not breathe air. Maybe then I won't get sick, but no, I better not do that. 4-pointer. This is 67 kilometers deep. That's associated with the Hikurangi that sits right offshore. Following that, a 3-pointer up north, still somewhat deep, 27 kilometers deep. So we got some activity stirring up there around that Hikurangi subduction zone. No big activity yet, but got to watch it. That's another subduction zone that's potentially overdue for some big earthquake activity. All right, let's see what else we have here across the region. Let's check out the Earthquake 3D globe. Pretty active out there. The Atlantic Ocean, not so much. Some older activity from late last night. South America, pretty quiet. A couple 2s. Middle America Trench down here. We're up here. Got some 4s and 5s out there, but nothing of any abnormal movement. California, let's go ahead and zoom in. Got some older activity from yesterday, but give a quick glance here. Be nice if they had their other map back, but hopefully it'll come in. Malibu area, the Malibu Coast Fault. I talked about this here, was it yesterday? Expecting some movement on that. We got a 2-pointer right now, but that looks like that's the only earthquake above 2.5 in Southern California. Aside from that, some movement up north around the Clear Lake volcanic field associated with geothermal operations. But mainly small microquake activity out there in SoCal, Southern California. Far as the Hayward Fault, that's been very active here yesterday. Today, a lot different. Looks like the total sequence here of earthquakes shows about 9 earthquakes, including quite a few 3s in there. That area is overdue for at least a 6.7. Larger, if you account for some of these other faults that are somewhat overdue as well. They tie in together. You could have a great quake out here up to an 8-pointer. So say you get the Rogers Mill Creek Fault up here along with a section of the Hayward Fault, and the Calaveras fault zone. I could see that being an 8-pointer easily. Even a 6.7 though on the Hayward fault would be devastating because it runs through the East Bay area. A lot of population density there. Unbelievable amount. Look at that. Some of the heftiest in the country around San Francisco there. So things have let off. It looks like today, one earthquake in the mix here around the Calaveras. Well, that's the Concord fault. A little small earthquake, 1.6. A little one from yesterday. So I'll continue to keep an eye on it. The Clear Lake volcanic field. This is, unfortunately, they don't have the satellite view out here anymore. I'm sure they're working on it, as stated, but these are geothermal fields that are 20 or 30 of them out here. If I had the satellite imagery, I could show you, but that's what's going on out there. The rest of the Pacific Northwest, pretty quiet. Yellowstone up here. Looks like we're all looking at a road map. Where are we going to travel to today, folks? It's just, I normally don't use this map, but their options here, they did something recently here to their map. It's a downgrade from what I'm used to here. So hopefully they fix this. Yellowstone, nothing showing up there. But let's just double check here real quick, see what we got for Yellowstone. Goodness. All right, Yellowstone National Park, some wind events earlier. Those are verifiable wind events. Since then, well, there's not a whole lot of earthquake activity. This is some type of outside interference that shows up periodically. That noise or whatever it is not showing up on nearby seismograph stations, so that is irrelevant. If it was earthquake activity, it would legitly be showing up on nearby seismograph stations, but it's not. Texas oil fields getting hit. The eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet out there. Not a whole lot going on. As far as Hawaii goes, just a couple smaller earthquakes out there around the USGS. You got to fix your maps. Come on. Some movement out, stretching out offshore. Really nothing big. Some twos, even a 3-pointer, 3.8 out here around that seamount. Formerly known as the Loihi Seamount. Now it's, I can't remember how to pronounce the name there, but they have it marked on here. The Loihi, or is it Loihi or Loihi Seamount? Keep forgetting which one it is, but I think you guys catch my drift there. Which one it is. Let's see. Is there anything else going on around the globe right now? California, like I said, California's backed off a little bit. Same with the Pacific, the northern edge of the Pacific Ring of Fire. Bunch of crunching going on out here in the crunch zone. Just keep an eye here. 2.5, another 2.5 coming into the Santorini area. Like I say, that looks like fluid movement, folks. I'd bet some money on it, but definitely looks like some fluid movement. Again, something I haven't seen, at least in the near term, and it was hard to tell in days past because of all the elevated earthquake activity, but still keeping an eye on the Santorini area of Greece. Let's check out space weather activity here real quick. Not a whole lot going on there around the sun. Got some unsettled conditions here across the higher latitudes for the auroras, but that's just mainly due to a high-speed solar wind stream flowing from that coronal hole number 14, which is now much further and degraded off towards the western limb. As far as any major flaring goes, not a whole lot happening there. I don't expect much coming up here in the days ahead in terms of any stronger flaring. All of these are fairly weak. Even looking at this sunspot down here, I'm not seeing a whole lot of complexity, but out of all of them, I guess this one may have a little bit of potential, but it doesn't look like much here. And that sunspot number is not even named yet. But there is looks like a little bright feature coming off of the UV filter image of the sun right now. So flaring slightly, but that's about the only area right now, folks. 10% chance for an X flare, that's way overblown. I have 1% or less. 45% chance for an M flare, that's probably decent. No major roars in the forecast aside from some unsettled conditions here with the roars. All right, Storm Prediction Center got a big time severe weather day coming up for Saturday, folks. If you're out here in this area of the country, take heed. We've got a big time tornado threat, 10% hatched area. That includes Pine Bluff, Arkansas area, Monroe, Louisiana, even portions of Tennessee here. Anywhere, in fact, if you're out here tomorrow across the green, brown, or within the major 10% zone, keep your eyes on the sky. Keep your weather radio handy. Definitely want to pay attention into the day tomorrow. That looks like maybe a big time severe weather event for tornadoes. A little bit of wind in there included as well, with a 30% chance, and some hail. Looks like a 15% chance of 15% chance of some decent size hail. So just a heads up there, folks. Be weather aware tomorrow. All right, let's put this weather model into motion. You'll see that severe weather ramping up across the south. That's going to shift eastward, taking that storminess with it as we head towards the end of the weekend. A little bit more rain out here across the Pacific Northwest and Northern California as we head into Sunday. And then it looks like a lot of colder air comes down here across a good portion of the country as we head to the beginning and the middle of next week. California, maybe a little bit more rain. And, well, we'll see what happens as we head into the March time period. Springtime's coming up. That's when things really start getting going out here in terms of severe weather potential. We'll have to see how this plays out this year. All right, folks. Yeah, that 5.7, pretty shallow up here. Not 100% certain about population density, but maybe a little bit. Not anything major, but keep an eye out here. Things are really stirring up underneath this region. We'll catch you guys out here a little bit later on, folks. Have yourself a wonderful Friday night. Stay safe, and see you guys out here later.